Well, I'm delighted to be here today with a band called Quinn, who have been one of the most dynamic and exciting bands in Glasgow, I think, over the last 10 years. It's not enough that they make albums and do gigs. They've also been a great part of the cabaret and theatre scenes, having worked with Vanishing Point on the, well, some might call it seminal, others may disagree, Beggar's Opera interpretation. They've also done their own work, Biding Time. I think that's a good place to start. Can I ask you a little bit about how you came to make your own theatrical production, Biding Time?
Well, it was actually through the Beggar's Opera, and Pippa Bailey wrote the original of Biding Time, which was a sort of global theatre project, and she put out a call to artists all over the world to respond to her piece, which was about women in the entertainment industry. So we'd just come out of doing the Beggar's Opera, and that's how Pippa heard about us.
So the Beggar's Opera was quite a big opportunity. You released an album with tracks from it, which had sleeve notes, I believe, by quite a famous author in Scotland, Ian Rankin.
That's right, yeah, Ian Rankin, who saw the Beggar's Opera when we did it at the Lyceum in Edinburgh, and then tweeted about it straight away, and through that Louise tweeted him back, and just through a kind of Twitter kind of friendship, managed to establish some kind of contact with him, and we sort of met up a few times, and he very kindly agreed to write the liner notes, which is quite nice of him.
You seem to be quite a nexus of different events and experiences as the theatre there, but you have a sideline in gigging for other people as well?
Yeah, I play with the Glasgow Improvisers Orchestra, which is kind of blinky blonky music, and people would say, why is my head hurting and where's the melody? Why is I no singer? But we've been doing that for 10 years. We had GeoFest there a while back. They broadcast some of it on Radio 3. Had Evan Parker and George Lewis, some various heavy people. It was great fun. And the Shetland Improvisers Orchestra as well. Also I do stuff with Bill Wells and Aidan Moffat. We did the album Everything's Getting Older, and that was quite well received.
Yeah, reasonably well received.
Yes, Scottish Album of the Year.
Louise, how do you keep the band called Quinn together with the amount of projects that you've got going on? Is it a struggle to get everyone in the same place at the same time?
It is actually, because you know, Steve, who's not here today, he also does other musical projects as well. But I don't know, I mean, there has been times when we've sort of thought about giving up, but something always seems to come along, and I don't know, it just sort of fires us up again.
We have to keep quite flexible, don't we, when it comes to gigs and stuff like that. You know, not everyone can always make it, but we kind of have different things that we can do. So we just approach it. Whoever's available at the time will approach it in that kind of in that manner. And most people are pretty flexible as well. They can play different instruments, so it's quite handy.
So it goes from, like, you know, the four of us, sometimes maybe with another couple of musicians as well, right down to just me and a guitar. So.
And then it's not a band called Quinn, it's just a person.
A woman called Quinn.
A human called Quinn.
Dr. Quinn Medicine.
Just going back to the first time I saw you, which was you had your own cabaret night. How did that come about?
Well, Bal and myself work for Mischief Labat, who are an interventionist, surrealist theatre company.
Basically, originally a street theatre company who now work in like a much wider kind of bunch of formats. So we've worked for Mischief for a long time. Actually, for quite a long time, that was our day job, was dressing up in stupid costumes and I don't know, fooling around. So which was quite a nice job. But through that, we basically, all our friends also worked for that company. So when it came to sort of putting our own night on, we decided that we'd want to sort of utilise our friends' sort of skills and just make something all together. That we could everyone could sort of chip in and do something, and sort of that seemed like the obvious thing to do, was put it in a cabaret format. And yeah, it worked really well. We did it at a few different venues. We did it at the old Buff Club, and it worked really well there. It was the kind of right kind of size for it, I think, and did a few other places, the Arches, Moore, we did it as well. And we toured it as well. We went all over Scotland to the Highlands and Islands, and we took it to Orkney and Shetland and stuff like that. So we had quite a lot of fun doing it.
But this was in the days when cabaret was still quite cool, really, before it was taken over by the burlesque explosion a couple of years later.
Right.
So it was a real diversity of events that you were putting on, including some perhaps legendary figures from Glasgow's art scene.
Well, Diane Torr, I guess would be and the name we'd probably mention there. Diane, who's like a sort of legendary sort of
drag king
performance artist, and really sort of fascinating woman who had worked with Mischief, and we were lucky enough to kind of get her involved with that as well. And she was also involved with Biding Time, the show that we've sort of been working on, we did last year, and we're hopefully doing again this year. So Diane's in the lots of the filmed footage for that show.
But you know, that was really relevant because, you know, so much about Biding Time is concerned with like gender issues, and you know, Diane is very much.
She's somebody to ask about gender issues. She's someone I will always go and ask her opinion before I make any statements.
She'll definitely give you an opinion.
No, I was actually thinking more of Leggy P and Charlie Montgomery.
Yeah, well, that's right, Leggy P. And Leggy P is also a legend. Yeah, and was our accountant for a while as well. So.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She started working for River City.
That's right, she's a chartered accountant now, works for River City, but and also brilliant performance.
The sort of variety of things that you've done over the years, is that anything to do with being in Glasgow, do you think? Is Glasgow a good creative place for you as a group to work?
Yeah, I think so, definitely.
Yeah, I think like the different sort of art forms definitely do mix in quite an interesting way in Glasgow, I'm sure, compared to sort of maybe other cities where things are more separate. I think like the art and music scenes are obviously very much intermingled because so many bands come from the art school. So that's kind of a given, but I think more and more theatre and music seem to be crossing over now as well. A lot of people I know that are in bands also now work in theatre projects as well. More and more people seem to be doing that. So.
Yeah, there's Zoe Van Gogh, Gav Prentice, he's doing the show, isn't he, with Kieran Harley?
Aye, so it's definitely a kind of mixing up of stuff. Maybe as well mixing up kind of like lowbrow and highbrow as well in Glasgow that doesn't necessarily happen in sort of other places.
I think, you know, I suppose there's always been a tradition of like moving things on with like the Arches and Tramway and the Citizens now. I think it's going back to what it was, you know, like decades ago. Try to be a bit more cutting edge, and quite often, you know, I'll talk to people who are in the sort of theatre scene and they'll be like, oh, I hate theatre, you know, I want to be in the music scene. And, you know, people who are in the music scene who will go, you know, I want to be in the film industry. And it's just so...
It's that sort of energy, isn't it, of people wanting to do something else, and quite often that can go quite badly wrong. But I want to go back to ask about improvising and improvised music. Does that come into what you do with a band called Quinn? Because I'm wondering, something like Biding Time, you had to be pretty disciplined in that.
Yes. But I always find ways of making small changes in things that are also sometimes I'll just do something a bit different.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past I did an awful lot of jazz gigs and stuff. So the idea of just making up the music as you're going along, I mean, it'd be just like a plaster or a brekkie or something.
Yeah, I think we're always very aware of your kind of like improvisational skills, so that we just make sure there's a framework which Robert can then if myself or like Steve, our bass player, started like making things up too much, that would probably throw things a bit, things would go awry. But the fact that, you know, we're a steady base for you to kind of do what you will with the top.
Well, I mean, it's like, I look at, like, if you look at a lot of tunes or a thing that you're going to perform, that can be like a climbing frame. You know, if you saw got say 100 people and got them all to use that climbing frame and filmed it, they would all do it a different way. So there's always an infinite number of different ways of approaching it.
Of going through a structure.
Yeah.
But during the show, you had to, Biding Time remix, you had to wear a sort of balaclava and play trumpet through it.
But there wasn't much room to see. So, and in the first performance, it was like I'd got the mask on, but my earpiece wasn't quite in, so I was like trying to surreptitiously do that.
It's on film.
I know it's on film, but that was the great thing about it.
Yeah.
You know?
I thought that was part of your routine, actually, when you were doing that. I just thought you were bringing that into it.
Well, subconsciously it might have been.
Now, I'm going to ask Biding Time again, because I saw it in the Arches. You've performed it since then as well. Was it Falkirk that you took it to?
Cumbernauld.
Cumbernauld
Theatre, yeah.
They had a wee sort of festival of new writing on, so we did it there.